Hello everyone, welcome to Analog IAS Current Affair Analysis for 29 September 2020, and these are the couple of issues that we'll be discussing today. The first article for the day is taken from the Hindu and it is titled Making Amends. This is in the context of the India and Sri Lanka relations. Now, let us look at the background of India and Sri Lanka relations. Firstly, we have to understand that the relationship between India and Sri Lanka is more than 2500 year old. So we have a legacy of intellectual, cultural, religious and linguistic interaction. Also, this region is very important for our trade and investment. So our trade and investment has grown, and there is a cooperation in the fields of infrastructure, development, education, culture, and also the recent years is witnessing a significant progress in the implementation of the developmental assistance projects. So India is a very important partner for Sri Lanka. However, historically there has been a big point of conflict between India and Sri Lanka, namely the Tamilians in Sri Lankan issue. So we had till 2009 a long standing conflict with Sri Lankan forces. So the liberated Tamil Tiger Elam, which is a force that fights for the rights of Tamils in Sri Lanka who have historically settled in this region, they also wanted certain rights and there was a civil conflict. India from time to time has supported the Sri Lankan government in its efforts to establish peace, and much to the chagrin of the Tamilians in India, especially in the state of Tamil Nadu, there has been a severe opposition that India is not supporting the cause of Tamilians in Sri Lanka. The Indian community, which has a lot of people of Indian origin, resides in Sri Lanka. They are not just the Tamilians, we also have Sindhis, Gujaratis, even Telugu speaking people who settled in Sri Lanka. In this context, this article is specifically talking about an important political point called the 13th Amendment of the Constitution. Now, what is this 13th Amendment? Let us have a look. So, after the Rajapaksas came back to power in November 2019 presidential polls and also the August 2020 general election, the spotlight was back again on certain legislations which were historically considered and contemplated by many political parties of the Sri Lankan political force. So the Sri Lankan amendments in use are the following. Firstly, they were talking about the 19th amendment, which tried to curb the powers of executive president while strengthening the parliament. So this is a good move towards democracy. But the most important one that is relevant for Indian politics and Indian diplomacy is the legislation under the 13th Amendment, which was passed way back in 1987, which mandates a measure of power and devolution to the provincial councils established to govern the island's 9 provinces. So some of them include even Tamilian provinces. So what is this 13th Amendment? Let us have a look at. In 1987 July, there was a accord between J.R. Jayawardene and the then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi. So they attempted to resolve the ethnic conflict and civil war, which was spreading very fast because of LTTE actions. So this 13th Amendment, which tried to create a power sharing agreement, ensured that the Sinhala majority areas allow the Tamilians to govern their own provinces. However, the constitutional structure was so that president had higher powers, especially with respect to financial resources. Now, even though subjects like agriculture, health, education, housing, all this were given to the provinces, financial power was solely in the hands of president, which made the entire 13th Amendment very ineffective. So these contentious provisions, which were very important in the context of the country's civil war, was one point that India wanted to settle so that it can peacefully concentrate on the other diplomatic engagements. So this point, if settled, would also end the issue of Tamilians in this region. However, critics argue that in a small country like Sri Lanka, what is the need to decentralize everything when they can actually control all the provinces? But the counter argument for this is decentralization and political autonomy will always ensure peace in any region. So, regional aspirations within a larger political structure can only be addressed by political autonomy. This has been proven across the world and throughout the history. So, India must continue its efforts to ensure that the spirit of the 13th Amendment of Constitution, which was passed way back in 1987, is implemented in its spirit. That is the gist of this article. The second article for the day is titled A Broad Crisis of Public Distrust That We Need to Resolve. Now, when we are talking about governance, we have to understand that governance is all about processes. So, the end objective of these processes is welfare. Now, what are the different kinds of processes that we talk about? We can talk about social processes, economic processes, and legislative processes. So, in the backdrop of the pandemic, the world over, we are facing a severe economic crisis, which has been termed as the worst kind of economic crisis ever since the 1929 economic depression. Some commentators even argue that it is going to be worse than the 1929 economic depression. But one of the major reasons for this is a lack of public trust on the governments across the world. So, in this article, we will be trying to understand the significance of public trust in shaping up opinions and governance. Why is public trust important? The post-war era simply depended upon the Keynesian stimulus. That is, if you put enough money into the hands of the people, they will spend, and that will push the economy forward. Whenever there is a downward trend or a slowdown, put more money into the hands of the people by printing more money or by borrowing more, and then this Keynesian stimulus will again trigger growth. So, this is the kind of Keynesian model that we were following. However, when you have situations like this pandemic, we are witnessing a sort of a paradox. How am I saying this? For example, take a look at the remittances from Gulf region to states like Kerala. We know that Kerala has a lot of outward migration into the Gulf region because historically oil economy has been supporting Keralites. Now, recently there was an article in Bloomberg which said that remittances have increased significantly. However, in normal times that would have been a great reason to celebrate, but this time it is going to be different because it is going to change the structure of our remittance inflow permanently. A lot of this remittances from Kerala came to India after they have sold out everything that they have earned over a period of 20 years, 30 years, and they came back to Kerala because of the uncertainty. So, whenever we are faced with this sort of uncertainty, it is important to have the trust of public for the government. Now, it is exactly this distrust on the ability of the government across the world, not just the Indian government, but also if you take the case of US is actually claiming that they are ready with a vaccine, but a recent survey has suggested that they don't 60% of the population, they don't trust the vaccine. So, it is very unlikely that they will take this vaccine because of the possible side effects. So, a lot of respondents in this survey believe that vaccine is used as a mode for political campaigning in these times of distress. So, this amount of public distrust is very dangerous to a democratic institution, because whenever we are talking about governances, it is basically about processes. Now, if these processes were to run smoothly, the most important element that will push the agenda of the government forward is public trust. So, we have a scenario where people are having money in their hands and they are not willing to spend. So, they are under a opinion that saving as much as they can is the best way to go forward in these times of uncertainty. And also in this regard, the role of media is equally important. So we can use these points in our governance answers as well as essay answers. What is the role of media in building this public trust? Why is media very important? So because of the consumeristic nature of journalism that we are witnessing today, which is mostly focused on sensationalism rather than sense, we are witnessing a trend where people are moving away from traditional media sources as newsworthy information, because they are cynical about the perception about almost everything. So in this context, the article writer says that it is very important to build this trust back to have economic revival. Even if there is a vaccine in sight, even if there is economic stimulus, unless and until the behavior of the public changes, we cannot expect a rebound in our economy. That is what this article is trying to suggest. So these are about the intangible elements of governance which we must focus upon. A very important article, often ignored. We can use this in our answers. That's it for the day. Thank you.